Celtics fans, what's going on? Will Scott with you here on Celtics Today. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about some trade targets not named Kevin Durant. I know a lot of y'all don't like KD, so we're going to talk about 5 other guys that the Celtics could potentially target before the offseason is all said and done. But first, go down and subscribe to the channel because we're bringing you Celtics news, Celtics rumors, and it has been a wild week. So the best way to stay in the loop is subscribing to our channel, turning on your notifications, go down, hit that big red subscribe button. Our first trade target we're going to talk about is a name we have talked about before on this channel. That is Jarred Vanderbilt. Now, some of these names that we're going to discuss, they don't fit into the Celtics' new TPEs because the $17.1 million TPE, which at the time was the largest in the league, that has expired. However, his $4.32 million salary fits in to the Celtics' available TPEs. He was traded to Utah in the Rudy Gobert trade. However, the Jazz could look to move him. As we've discussed on the show, nobody on the Jazz roster is safe. Multiple teams are interested in him, according to several reports. Other teams, it has been confirmed that the Celtics are interested. However, it is rumored that the Celtics could potentially target Jarred Vanderbilt. Here's what he did last season in Minnesota: 6.9 points per game, 8.4 rebounds per game, 1.3 assists per game, shot 58.7% from the floor. Now, do you want to trade for Jarred Vanderbilt? Type T for trade or type P for pass. The Celtics need some depth down low. However, Vanderbilt is more of a 4. The Celtics need a 5. That's why I think there's potentially better options for the Celtics to trade for. We're going to get into 2 more true centers later on in today's show. But Vanderbilt's certainly a name to keep an eye on, as well as Naz Reid. I'm a big fan of Naz Reid. I've been watching him pretty closely since his days playing for LSU, and he's more of a true center, a guy that can be the backup center to Robert Williams III. Here's what he did in Minnesota last season, and he was not included in the Rudy Gobert trade, much like Vanderbilt. Naz is still in Minnesota, 8.3 points per game, 3.9 rebounds per game, and he's a pretty good three-point shooter for a big man. Shot 34% from three-point range last season. Can definitely kind of be a stretch 5. I think he's the perfect fit for this Celtics team because when you look at what the Celtics need right now, the biggest need on this basketball team is a backup center. He can come in and kind of fill that void that has been left by Daniel Tice, who was traded to Indiana in the Brogdon trade, and he can shoot. I really like Reid. I think he'd be a good fit on the Celtics because he's durable. He's played in 147 games the last 2 years. He's very, very cheap, making less than $2 million next season, and he can shoot the 3, a 34% three-point shooter. So I'm a big fan of Reid, and I like the idea of bringing him to Boston. Now, do you want to trade for Naz Reid? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Down in the comments section, it's the pinned comment on today's video. When ad break comes, go down, let me know, do you want to trade with the Timberwolves for Naz Reid? Let's talk about Kenrich Williams, who I was reading an article earlier today about potential trade targets for the Celtics, and he was on this list. It was the first time that I've seen him linked to Boston, and he's on an Oklahoma City Thunder team that really nobody is safe outside of some of their young stars like Giddey and Chet Holmgren. Here is what he did last season for the Thunder: 49 games played, 7.4 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, shot 39% from three-point range. Played more of the 3 last season, also capable of playing the 4. But like I said, any vet on the Thunder is up for grabs. Really, nobody is safe on this team. Sam Presti has $2 million draft picks in the next 10 years. He's still looking to stockpile picks. So if the Celtics offered, let's say, a second-round pick, maybe 2 second-round picks for Williams, I think the Thunder might take it and take it pretty quickly. Now, what you should be taking quickly is this Jayson Tatum jersey, and we're giving you a great deal on this Tatum jersey. And I've told my bosses to keep this deal up. Do not take this deal away from Celtics fans. And unlike Brown, Tatum is not on the trade block. He's not going to get traded. You don't have to worry about JT getting traded. So go and get your Jayson Tatum jersey. Chatsports.com/Tatum. That link is in the comments and the description of this video. Let's talk about another member of the Oklahoma City Thunder. That is Derrick Favors, and he is more of a true center, which obviously is the Celtics' biggest need right now, and he has been linked to the Celtics a lot this offseason, especially before their $17.1 million trade player exception expired, but his $10.2 million salary when that deal expired, when that trade player exception expired, certainly complicates things when you talk about getting Derrick Favors. I like Favors, but because of the salary cap consequences of maybe trading for him, it might be somewhat of a difficult trade to pull off. Now, if you had to pick one center to trade for, who are you trading for? Is it Derrick Favors type DF, or is it Naz Reid type NR? Down in the comments section, go down and let me know what you think. Type DF for Favors or type NR for Reid. Duncan Robinson is our last trade target that we're going to talk about here on today's show. And man, would this be a lot of fun trading for Robinson, someone who the Celtics pretty familiar with. They played him, quite a bit throughout the last couple seasons. Obviously beat him and the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. But his $16.9 million salary makes a trade very difficult after the Celtics' $17.1 million TPE expired. Now, Brogdon's trade didn't fit into that TPE, so Brad Stevens, being the mastermind he is, figured out a way to make that work with the cap. He would have to do the same thing for Robinson, and Robinson has been in a lot of trade rumors this offseason because the Heat have been heavily in pursuit of both Donovan Mitchell and Kevin Durant. Of course, the Celtics could use another wing. They could really use Duncan. Here's what Sean Devaney said of Heavy.com. What will it take to get Duncan Robinson from the Miami Heat? Says one league exec, a first-round pick, no protection. So that is apparently what it's going to take to pull off a trade for Robinson. Now, the Celtics, after the Brogdon trade, do not have a first-round pick next year. However, they have 3 second-round picks, and then obviously they can trade future first-round picks as well. But here's what Duncan Robinson said on his podcast when he had Grant Williams on as a guest. I love the city of Boston. I don't hide that at all. Man, would that be fun, Duncan Robinson coming to the Celtics. And look, if the Celtics can pull this off, and again, it's going to be complicated because he does not even come close to fitting into the Celtics' available TPEs, I would be all for it if Brad Stevens can figure out a way to make this work, because the Celtics, in my opinion at least, still need a little bit of shooting off the bench, maybe a wing. We heard Ime Udoka at the Summer League talk about the possibility of adding another wing. Robinson would fit into what the Celtics are looking to do very well. Now, when you're looking at his stats from last season, it definitely wasn't his best season. 37.2% from three is pretty solid, 10.9 points per game, but his numbers the previous 2 years were much, much better. His rookie season, 3.3 points per game, didn't really have much of an impact on the Miami Heat. But look at what he did that 2019-2020 season when he was a part of that NBA Finals, quote-unquote NBA Finals. It was the bubble finals, but you get my point. 13.5 points per game, 44.6% from three. So the numbers have dipped a little bit for Robinson, but hey, bring him to Boston. Maybe a fresh start is what he needs. Now, do you want to trade for Duncan Robinson? Type 1 for yes or type 2 for no. Down in the comments section, go down. I'm curious to hear what you think. I really want to trade for Duncan. However, I think it's pretty unlikely. Now, let's say the Heat end up trading for KD or Mitchell and the Celtics get involved as a third team in the deal. We've talked about the Celtics potentially being the third team in a deal for a Mitchell trade. Maybe Robinson gets shipped to Boston. That might be the only way to get Robinson and somehow make it work with the salary cap. Brian Windhorst is reporting this, by the way. I wanted to hit on this because we've obviously talked about Aaron Baynes as a potential backup center option for the C's. Windhorst is saying Aaron Baynes will resume his basketball career in a new deal with the Brisbane Bullets. What a name for a team. Of the NBL, his agent tells ESPN, contract has an NBA out, so he can return to the league, which has been his goal after a grueling recovery from the freak fall at the Olympics a year ago this week. That obviously the spinal cord injury that Windhorst is referencing here. So happy for Baynes, happy he can get back on a basketball court. And look, if he goes to the NBL and plays really well and proves that he's healthy, proves he's the Aaron Baynes of old, the Baynes that we saw play really well in Boston for a few seasons, and Luke Cornett's not cutting it as your backup center, then hey, maybe make a phone call to Aaron Baynes. But obviously, we're rooting for him. I'm a Brisbane Bullets fan now, so I need to get some gear, some NBL gear. That's for sure. Thank you for watching this edition of Celtics Today. If you haven't already, go down and subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you again soon.